I recently went to CEDIA and I saw a lot of really cool things there. But one of the wildest things that I got to see at CEDIA was a 60-inch subwoofer from Deus Audio Machines. Now, I featured this in my last video where I discussed everything that I saw at CEDIA. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link up here. Go check that out. That's really cool. But I wanted to talk a little bit more about this crazy subwoofer from Deus Audio Machines, because when I went to their booth, I met Devin and I found out that they are actually local to me. And so I'm like, can I come to your facility and see where you actually make these things? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. So that's what I did. I went and I took a tour with Devin and Chris, and they showed me around and they told me the story of how this came to be. And it is fascinating. It is absolutely fascinating. And so I wanted to make a video and share kind of the story of how it came to be and what the plan is moving forward. Now, okay, so what is Deus Audio Machines? You probably never heard of it because they just launched their website a few weeks ago. And so what this is this has come out of their existing company, which is called Swarm. And Swarm, they do design for a lot of different companies, not just audio, though there are audio companies that they work with, but they do design work for a number of different companies.
We came up with some really, really interesting driver technologies and totally unique topologies. And so we've been kind of messing around with that. And, so we've designed speakers, we've designed drivers, we've done, the whole 9 yards. And we kind of, when you're working for most of those brands that we work with, they have to hit a price point, right? And, no shame in that, right? You have your market, you hit a price point, and so you do things to dial back on the quality, the build, the, innovation. You don't, they just don't have the money to spend years developing a new driver for this, right? It's like, oh, this driver is great. Let's put it in. It sounds good. It's well balanced for the size of the, the volume, the cabinet, whatever. It works great, right? But we kind of learned all the things you can do to increase that performance if cost isn't really much of an object, right? Yeah. And so it's nothing that we could do that was like, hey, you guys should license this from us, because where we ended up, it just was not feasible for that kind of a business. And so that kind of became...
And we kind of came up with some unique stuff.
Yeah.
And so through that process, we came up with a motor structure that's super efficient. So that's originally where we were headed. Is we were like, oh wow, this driver is 40% more efficient, and if you have put that into a Bluetooth speaker, you save 40% battery. So we spent a lot of time, which is batteries are the expensive part of a Bluetooth speaker. So that's what kind of is going to pay for the cool stuff. And that's where we were like, well, what if we flip this and put a whole bunch of power into this motor? And that's where Deus came from. Is we're like, oh wow, this is really cool. We've got this driver that's clean. It's got clean, low distortion, all the characteristics you want in a subwoofer that's not on the market right now. Like, there's very few companies that are going after clean bass. But because it's cheap and easy to throw a port in there, you get a whole bunch of extra dBs, and you've got a big loud bass, but it's not tight. So that's kind of the birth of Deus.
So you're going after a new bent, which is, let's do a really low distortion, really clean,
fast bass. Because that's not I always use this. I was at Expona last year, and we were listening to all these $1 million systems, and every one of them was ported.
Yeah.
And they spent all this money on the upper end of the upper range of frequencies, the mids and highs, but then they just kind of let's just put a port in there and make it loud. And loud is not clean bass.
Right.
We'll do a demo for you, and you'll get to hear it. Like you'll be like, it's I think it's the part, the bass is the part of audio that people have not been paying attention to.
And so they decided to build an ultra low distortion subwoofer and use their power saving ideas, designs, techniques to make it really efficient. And so that then they can use that. And what if they put a lot of power into that subwoofer? So basically they just wanted to build an unreal subwoofer. So they actually started out by building a 48-inch subwoofer, which they now have kind of on display in their facility. It's up high. They had to use a forklift to get it up there. It's not really in use, but they leave it up there just kind of for fun. But they could hook it up and use it if they wanted to. They showed me the 60-inch subwoofer. They also showed me their 18-inch subwoofer. So at this point, they have two different subwoofers. They have the 60-inch and they have the 18-inch. And with the 18-inch, there's two different variations of it. There's a hi-fi version, which is a more traditional cube, and it's a large cube, as you would imagine, with an 18-inch subwoofer. And then the cinema or home theater version is a shallow form factor. So it is large because it's 18-inch, but then the depth is narrower. This was just really, really cool because I actually got to listen to these subwoofers in their facility, whereas when I was at CEDIA, I wasn't there when they were playing any demos, and so I didn't actually get to hear them in the exhibition hall, but I did get to hear them in their design facility. When they cranked up the 60-inch sub, I mean, this was a fairly large warehouse space, right? So, I mean, super high ceilings. It was a large enclosure. It certainly wasn't pressurized because there were large metal garage doors, like the roller kind that, you can lift up so trucks can come in. And so obviously it wasn't pressurized. And despite all that, I mean, the output of that 60-inch sub was something to behold. It was incredible. I was sitting there, my pant legs were just vibrating, and then I heard all this rattling behind me, and I turned around, and the garage door, that massive metal garage door, was just shaking, rattling like crazy. I mean, the output on that 60-inch sub is just, it's unreal. It's absolutely unreal. I said this in my CEDIA video, and I will say it again. Anybody who buys that 60-inch sub, the Invicta 60, anybody who buys that and puts that in their home theater, please invite me over because I want to demo that theater. This sub is something else. And I got to say, their 18-inch subs, there's some magic going on there. They crank those up. They only have two of them. Like I say, they're in the initial stages. So at this point, they've only produced one of the 60-inch and they have two of the 18-inch. And so they fired them up and we played some demos and those things sounded incredible. Those 18-inch subs are absolutely unreal. They have implemented a new technology. I wouldn't say a new technology per se. Well, actually, I can't really say because I don't know. Like, they've applied for a lot of patents, so they really couldn't get into the details of exactly how they're able to accomplish what they're able to do. But when you have a woofer, so you have a subwoofer, a speaker, anything, you got the woofer, right? Like the dome part of it that moves in and out, that creates the sound, right? Well, it moves in and out because of a magnet. And as the energy oscillates through I don't know if oscillate's the right word, but as the energy travels, the wave travels through that magnet, it energizes it and de-energizes it, and it moves that woofer, right? Well, as the woofer moves away from the magnet, as it gets further away, the force that the magnet exerts on the woofer diminishes, right? Like imagine if you have two magnets, as you pull, when they're stuck together, it's really, really strong. And then you break them apart and you can still feel some attraction, and then you pull them apart and then there's like no attraction, right? So it's the same way with a speaker or a subwoofer. The further the woofer pushes out away from the magnet, the less force the magnet is able to exert on the woofer, which means the less control that the magnet has. And so as it travels out its full distance, it can kind of wobble and it can kind of, move around because that magnet is not holding it in tight control. Well, what Devin and Chris have managed to do is they have created a subwoofer where the magnet is able to exert full force and full control of the woofer for the entire length of its travel. So even when it is fully extended out, that magnet still has full control and full force being exerted on that woofer, which means no rattling around, no distortion, right? So it's going to be tight, which means when it needs to suck it back in, it's able to do that. And there's no hesitation, there's no lag, nothing. It is just boom, boom, boom. It is super tight. And that is exactly what I heard with those 18-inch subs and with the 60-inch. It was incredible, that 60-inch sub, the level of control, though it didn't have to travel very far because it had such a massive surface area that very little movement in and out created a lot of displacement. A lot of air was being moved. But those 18-inch subs, there was a lot of movement on those woofers, and they were so tight, so controlled. They cranked up some demo clips, some drum solos. Especially, there was one in particular where the kick drum was just going like crazy. It was the rapid pace of the kick drum beats. And that sub was just boom, 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 boom. I mean, it had it completely in control. It was so tight. These subs are something else. They are something else. And I may be getting a little ahead of myself here, but we have been in discussion, in talks, to have those two 18-inch subs brought into my theater to do some demos and to try them out here in my space. So fingers crossed we are able to do that. I am super impressed with these subs. I'm really excited about what Devin and Chris are doing at Deus Audio Machines. I see a lot of potential there. Yeah, this is definitely something that I am going to watch closely to see where they go with this, because like I say, there is a lot of potential and I am really excited about it. So in the meantime, stay tuned for any future updates that I may be able to come up with. And as always, thanks for watching.